The promises of God are true, and the promises of sin are all lies. Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas, and today I want to talk to you guys about sin and the deceitfulness of sin and how sin is a liar. Now, sin isn't like a person, sin is a concept. Sin is anytime we do something that God says we should not do. Anytime we do something against God's plan for us and for others. Sin is bad, always. Now, even though sin is not a person, sin still lies. Just like Satan, who is a person. He's not a person like a human, he's a person like an angel. He's also not a person like God. Sometimes people get that mixed up. They're like, well, Satan is just the opposite of God. And yes, he is opposed to God, but it's not like Satan is as powerful as God. No, that's not true at all. Satan is an incredibly powerful, bad angel. And Satan lies all the time, just like sin. You know, I don't know about you, but I think superheroes are awesome. I think superpowers are super cool. I would love to have superpowers. Any of them. Any of the superpowers are really cool. Like I would love to have, laser vision or be able to fly or have super strength or, be able to turn invisible or walk through walls, like really cool stuff. I'd love to have superpowers. And one of the superpowers that I would really like is called telekinesis. Do you know what that is? Telekinesis is this idea. It's this made up thing where you can move things just with your mind. Like you could make something float across the room into your hands. And I've always thought that'd be so cool. Especially when I'm like, sitting on the couch and I'm all comfy, but I want to play like a video game or something and I don't have the controller in my hand and it's sitting across the room and I wish I could just like make the controller float over to me. That'd be awesome. I'd love to be able to do that. And one day I was sitting on my couch and that was exactly how I was feeling. I was feeling I could just use my brain to like make my controller float over to my hands. And I don't know if this was actually Satan talking to me or if it was a demon or if it was just like my own imagination. But I felt like I could hear, not with my ears, but like in my heart, I felt like I could hear Satan telling me, if you would just worship me, you could have telekinesis. I'll give you telekinesis. If you don't worship God anymore, but you worship me, I'll make it so that you can move stuff with your mind. And this was a couple years ago. And really pretty much right away, I was like, no, I'm not doing that at all. Of course, I'm not going to, renounce God so that I can, pick up stuff with my brain. That's not worth it at all. And, I'd kind of look back on that moment. Again, I don't know if it was Satan actually talking to me or a demon or if it was just, again, my own imagination. But no matter what, it was a sinful thing. It was a sinful thought. The idea was wrong. The idea was a bad idea. And I'd always known that if I had worshipped Satan, that would have been wrong. That would have been very, very bad. But the thing that kind of occurred to me recently was not only is it very bad, but that would have been a terrible, foolish idea because Satan is a liar. If it really was Satan offering me, the ability to move stuff with my mind, if I, chose to not follow Jesus and choose to follow Satan instead, even if that was Satan and not just my imagination, if I had chosen to follow him, he was not going to give me superpowers. He'd be like, oh, great, you follow me now? Now you have to live with that. And on top of that, I'm not going to give you telekinesis because I could never do that in the first place. Haha. Right, so again, whether it was Satan or whether it was, one of his minions or whether it was just, again, my own imagination, no matter what it was a lie. And that's the way all sin is. All sin makes you think that something good will happen if you do something wrong. And it's never true. All the promises of sin are lies. Again, sin isn't a person, sin is a thing we do. But when we sin, we lie to ourselves. And there are tons of sins, right? Tons of things that you can do that are wrong. And all of those things lie. So there are tons of examples of how sin lies to us. Like revenge is a good example of that because, if someone is a bully, if someone makes you feel embarrassed or they hurt your feelings or they even physically hurt you, sin says if you got back at them, if you embarrassed them or hurt their feelings or hurt them physically, you'll feel better. You'll feel great. But that's not true. You might in a moment be like, haha, I got you back. But then all you feel is emptiness. Sin brings death. And sometimes that means physical, actual death, but it always means that it ruins things. If you see a bunch of kids doing something that they should not be doing, this is a wrong, bad thing. Sin might say, if you go do that bad thing, those kids will like you. Sin says sinning is a good way to make friends. Sinning is a terrible way to make friends. Because first of all, that's not the sort of friend that you want anyhow. But also, if someone only likes you because you do something wrong, they don't really like you. If your friends are only your friends because you do bad stuff, they are not your friends. And sin will say, if you lie, it'll make everything okay, right? Like, if my dad were to ask me if I did my chores and I didn't do my chores, I don't want to make him upset, and so I would just say, "Oh yeah, I did do my chores." That's what sin wants me to do, because it's like, yeah, everything will be fine, but everything is not fine when you lie. Again, sin always ruins things. Sin brings death. But the promises of God, they bring life. Now, the promises of God and the promises of sin are complete opposites in many ways. But one of the ways that they're opposite is that they're they're like flipped. So a promise of sin is like, if you do this bad thing, something good will happen. And if you do that bad thing, it might seem for a little while that the promise of sin was true. It'd be like, I lied to my dad, and so he thinks I did my chores until he finds out that I didn't do my chores, and then bad stuff happens. The lie of lying is that everything will be okay, but in the end, it's not okay. The lie of revenge is that if you get revenge, you'll feel better, and you might for a second, but in the end, you don't. You feel empty, and you have to deal with the consequences that always come with revenge. And on and on and on and on and on. Those are just a few examples, but every sin does this same pattern where it seems like it's a good thing, and then it starts to look like it's a good thing, and then in the end, it brings death. In the end, it ruins things. But the promises of God are backwards, right? If God says something is going to happen, it's gonna happen. If God says something is good for you, it is good for you. But not all the promises of God seem that way at first. Right? Doing things God's way is always the best way, but it doesn't always seem like the best way at first. It doesn't always feel like the best way. Like being kind to your enemies, that kind of hurts while you're doing it, right? Because there's something inside you, sin inside you is saying, you'd feel a lot better if you were mean to these people who are mean to you. But in the end, that leads to death. And if you are kind to those who are mean to you, as God has told us, and just how, Jesus set an example for us, if you do that, good things will happen. And that's the way it is with following God. It's always going to turn out okay when you follow God. And a lot of times, at first, it does not at all feel like the right idea. But every single time, sin brings death, and following God brings life. So my challenge to you guys today is that you would follow God. Don't sin. And when you feel that, tug towards sin, where you're like, I want to do this bad thing because I think something good will happen, I want you to recognize that feeling and run away from it. Don't do what is wrong, hoping that something good will happen. It never, ever works that way. Might seem good for a fleeting moment, but in the end, it always brings death. Sin is a liar. And when you are doing what is good, when you are following God, or you're waiting on His promises, and it's hard, don't give up. Trust that God's promises are trustworthy, because they absolutely are. Following God is not the easy way, but it's the best way. It brings life. God's promises are true. But sin is a liar. Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas. And yeah, I don't know why I went so long thinking that Satan was actually going to give me superpowers if I followed him. That's again, it's not just a bad idea, it's foolish. He's not gonna keep his promises, and the promises of sin are all lies. And Satan is the father of lies. So yeah, don't give in to Satan. Don't give in to sin. Don't do what is wrong thinking that something good will happen, because it won't. It's all lies. But all the promises of God are true. And the truth is that God says that following Him will be hard. He doesn't lie about that. Sin says if you do what is easy, if you do what is wrong, good things will happen. And they might feel that way for a moment, and then it's gone. Death has come. But if you follow God, that always leads to life. So follow God.